Hello, fellow students from all around Europe.
Good morning, everyone. Bonjour, kalimera σας.
We come from Colegio Plurilingüe San José de la Guía, in Teis, Vigo, Galicia, Spain.
Dear ladies and gentlemen, my name is Merel Liebrecht. I am 18 years old and I represent the Netherlands and my school, de Waardenborg.
Hi everyone. We are a group from a small town called Żywiec in south-central Poland.
We are from Portugal, a country you should visit for several reasons. Some of them are the people, the history, the culture, the food, the weather, the beautiful landscapes, the beautiful beaches, and of course, if you want to see a beautiful crisis, you should go there too.
Visszanéztem félutamból, szememből a könyv kicsordult.
Today we're here to discuss and exchange our ideas, swap our ideas, and we can do that freely, irrespective of where we come from and of our social background.
We're all happy to be here with students from all around Europe in this chamber, which consists a symbol of unity and democracy.
We are awfully proud to be here with you today, and this image of you standing in front of us can be hardly removed from our memory from now on. Thank you, merci, mulțumesc.
My question is about internet neutrality. I know that the European Union is a strong advocate for internet neutrality, but I'm not sure how the European Union can guarantee it, or what are the exact measures to provide internet neutrality in all of Europe.
What are the possibilities of the conflict in Ukraine to evolve into the most feared Third World War, and how can we do something to prevent it?
What is the EU position about the initiative for basic income?
And I would like to ask about the EU's standpoint in connection with the freedom of speech in the press, especially. So is the EU in favor of the completely unrestricted freedom of speech in the press, or in favor of the restricted freedom of speech? Thank you.
What's the European Union attitude towards the refugee crisis, and what are the measures to prevent another crisis in the future?
I did not learn enough about the EU in school to know for who to vote or what actually those constitutions are doing. So, I mean, we hear no, but not everyone has the same opportunity to participate in the Euroscola project, and probably not everyone is as engaged as we are. The EU is able to make sure how big a cucumber or broccoli is, but why doesn't they make sure that every single student of Europe gets the education it needs to know enough about to vote, to know enough about the EU, to know enough about the constitutions, for example, creating a new curriculum in schools? Thank you very much.
So one of the issues that I'm particularly quite passionate about is rape and sexual exploitation, and it's said that these issues affect 1 in 3 people. So I was just wondering what measures are being taken to reduce both of these issues within the EU, and maybe if there's any specific policies kind of being considered at the moment. Thank you.
I want to know if the European Parliament has found some solution for the future about the unemployment problem for the youth people, because we are all youth and we want to know if our future is safe.
Cyprus is occupied illegally by Turkey. How will Europe help this situation? I am asking this because we know that the European Union supports human rights and Turkey ignores them.
My question is about a 2020 program. Is it possible to all the EU countries to reach the targets?
I just want to make reference back to another young person's point in terms of freedom of speech. And I do approach this subject with great caution due to its sensitivity. But I do believe that when one person may have the access to exercise their right in terms of freedom of speech, surely someone should have the right to actually express their own religion and their own right. Obviously, I condone both such behaviours that were expressed in recent events in Paris, but surely if the European Union represents all the nations, they should actually be working with all communities and kind of supporting them as much as they can. So my question is basically, if the European is going to mention, that they should support freedom of speech, they should also say that, the mocking or the mockery of certain religions, I believe, of any religion, is just wrong.
I'm interested in the final goal of the European Union. Is it to spread all over Europe, to accept all the countries of Europe, or is it to, I don't know, perhaps limit itself to ensure self-sustainability and its sustainability and security of its economics and so on?
Although the religion is a very important domain for many people, it's a part of their daily life, it is also a motivation for terroristic attacks, like in Charlie Hebdo. Moreover, in Asia, fanatic Muslims have destroyed monuments, they have killed innocent people. Has the European Union a specific plan to guarantee our safety?
How do you think that the EU can protect Muslims and other groups who are branded as extremists?
The last few Europarlament elections showed that the number of Eurosceptic deputies is rising. And do you think that this is the result of lack of information about the European Union? And is the European Union ready to confront the possible danger of disruption within the Union itself?
As we all know, a lot of immigrants from war-afflicted countries are moving to Europe. Do you think that European economy, which has been affected by a crisis in the past few years, can handle this? Moreover, how will society face this immigration wave, considering that there has been significant percentage rise of extreme right-wing parties, while the financial state of European citizens is getting worse? Which measures could be taken to protect both European citizens and immigrants seeking a better life?
As it has been seen in the previous months, it has been falling relative to other major currencies, which could lead to, in the worst case scenario, to the downfall of euro as a currency. So what will the EU do to stabilize it, and with that stabilize the EU economy as a whole? Thank you.
We were discussing on EU cooperations in this topic. EU cooperations on that how should the European Union, the states of the European Union contribute. We were discussing that we all should know what kind of problems, what kind of issues of environment are there all around Europe, all around the states of the European Union, not just our own. Of course, it's really, really important to know what happens environmentally in our own country. However, we should know all about the problems. So we have to really know what happens in Europe. And then I would like to move on to the second question we were discussing, that how can we make real sustainable energy? First one was, of course, to use all the alternatives, the wind energy, the solar energy, and I think all of you know these type of energy resources we could use in an eco-friendly ways, and we also would recommend the government to go for it and use not just solar and wind energy and these kind of things, but also the sources of energy which are not really well known. So we should protect nature by what nature gives us. So that's how we would like to put in also wave energy and biomass energy.
We should firstly take care of ourselves. This will enable us to give more aid to countries in need. Solving Europe's economic crisis would also help to eradicate poverty, still striking more than 1.2 billion hungry children. Thus helping this would have a much bigger impact. The main idea that we proposed is to invest in development of infrastructure, which means investing in small businesses. And this would lead to the expenditure of businesses and thus to the creation of jobs. Giving money is simply not good enough. We also have to educate people. And this is how we can achieve universal poverty eradication. We've also talked about how advertising can be a major benefit for development of third world countries. By advertising, we can make people aware of the situation in third world countries. But again, we need to take care of ourselves and solve the economic crisis.
Fundamentally, we want to introduce a different defense system, a new defense system, a defense system which has never been tried before, something which will completely change the face of the European Union, we believe. Instead of having single nation armies, we want to create a united army, a peace corps rather, something that we can defend our union with. We do not want individual countries. We are a union, we are together, we are united. Each country will provide an army or part of their army to our peace corps. It will be in the capital where our parliament is, in France, in Strasbourg here. The USA is a strong army. The USA is a strong country. I think we can universally agree. They are not divided. Although they have a state system, although they have a federal system, the states, although they are separate, they do not have their own armies. Much as we are proposing to have one army, the United States has a single army, and some would consider the United States of America to be the single strongest country in the entire world. Although we would be strengthened by the fact that each individual country would keep its army, a united army would strengthen the entire union.
I would just like to ask, do we even need a common army? Because as you were talking about before, about the United States Army, we know that the United States get a lot of critics and how much they spend too much on their armies and their military. Do we even have a threat that the European Union will actually be attacked? Or, I mean, attacked to that scale that we would need our own army? I think that money should be used on other problems that are much more problematic at this time. And of course in the future, as is in employment, education, as we stated, and also that, is there even a need for European Union to have its own army? Thank you.
To answer that question in brief, I would say yes, there is absolutely a need to have a unified army. There is always a need to have some kind of defense. In my opinion, and in the opinion of my group, a unified army, although expensive, is a move to create a more unified union. And I need to mention the words unified union. How can we need a unified union? We are not unified at the moment. We are not unified because we are separate. We are separate in defense, we are separate in education. These matters need to be dealt with, and although expensive in the short run, surely creating a more powerful institution will benefit us in the long run.
I think we all forgot that our ancestors fought for this right. They fought for this right to vote. They fought for it, they died for it. And now we take it for granted that we are able to vote, but it's actually not. It's a privilege. And I think people should make use of it. And we need to remind them, we need to encourage them, and through real information, true information. But how we can achieve that also, not only by shutting the door for politicians and donating money to newspapers, but we can also do that through unclassifying government documents. Sometimes people start watching news or reading newspapers. Why? Because they don't know who to believe. But just imagine how it would be like if you would have access to all government documents. Just imagine how it would be like if you could see where your tax money is going at, where you see where it's going to spend at. And that was actually our basic idea, a Freedom of Information Act, where all governments have to open their archives and their documents to the citizen of the European Union. And it's not only their right, but it's the obligation to the European Union that their citizens are well informed and that they have to make sure that there's no disclosure. A well-informed citizenry is the lifeblood of a democracy. And in all arenas of government, information, particularly timely information, is the currency of power. I believe that freedom of information is so vital that only the international security, and only the international security, not the desire of public officials or private citizens, should determine when it must be restricted.
You said you want to open all the documents to public. There's a problem. Do you actually think that anyone would read them? Why do you think that someone will have enough time to go through, I don't know, hundreds and hundreds of pages of this? No one cares about this, I think.
When the whole stuff with Snowden came out, where all those documents were revealed to the public, wasn't whole Europe screaming, the whole world? Weren't there actually being involved the first time since a long time in those international affairs? If they open those archives documents, of course there will be maybe people who won't read it, but I promise you, I'm almost to 99% sure that there will be people who will be interested, a lot of people who will actually read those and try to understand those and, yeah, maybe go vote.
The European Union needs to be a strong advocate of basic human rights and democracy. And if in countries outside of the European Union where there's a lack of democracy and a deficit, this long-term influence of the European Union could help these countries get on their feet themselves so that people from those countries do not have to leave their home country. Now, a third point is distribution of refugees, of asylum seekers. Right now, the border countries bear most of the responsibilities and the hardships of immigration, and there must be, as we think, European coordination, so-called asylum coordination, where member countries who are not, that are not border countries can as well take their part through solidarity in this process. Now there's another issue, which is the issue of border controls, which must be regulated very strictly, which means that people who want to come to the EU with the right papers, with the right documentations, they are welcome, but any illegal activity can and will not be tolerated. We must put an end to organized crime and human trafficking with the coordination of police and military forces, and this can be done at a European level, for example, with the strengthening of Europol.
I'm talking about integration, because from what I mean, this is a big problem in our country. We take all the burden, most with Italy as well. What about integration? When these illegal immigrants come to Malta, as I can say, they have the problem of integrating.
Yes, so I think we talked about the topic of integration, maybe just not only with these specific words. I think that through language courses and through being or through the process of being familiar with the culture of one country, be that Malta or any else, these people who seek asylum, they can start the process of integration. So this is the first step, the awareness, the language courses, and the things that I have already mentioned. Thank you.
The first one that we spoke about was more internships and apprenticeships provided across Europe, and they'll be subsidized by the European Union. These will give young people experience, and it means that young people and adults can share experience with each other and share knowledge. There will also be, and this is our second promise, more education within schools. So young people have a better understanding of careers and a better understanding of other options, not just jobs, but also things like apprenticeships, traineeships, etc. We also want to teach young people about business and entrepreneurships. So if there isn't jobs, young people can learn how to not only create their own, but to become their own employer. The third thing that we spoke about, and this was our most controversial debate, was about the minimum wage. And we finally agreed that within the EU, every EU member state would set a minimum wage, and they were presented here to all the other EU member states, and they would be voted on, so that every EU has a satisfactory, acceptable, and fair minimum wage. And this would reduce exploitation and kind of corruption within the employment system, so everyone is paid a fair amount.
Hi again. So I like your plan. It's really nice to, further the education of young people and so on. But the problem is, it's not that kids are dumb and that they're not smart enough, that they need more education. It's the problem that there's no jobs. And by educating young people, we can't get more jobs, unfortunately. That's the way it is.
So to kind of respond to your argument, I'm going to tell you a little bit about two of my friends, actually. So in Lewisham, where I'm from, there is high levels of unemployment. And there's a man, and his name was Jacob Sakil, and another man called Chiesa. And both of them, there was no jobs. They both were training for degrees, I think it was. They both had GCSEs, which is quite a basic qualification. But both of them set up their own business, right? And both of them were successful. And it's kind of about educating young people for other options, because it's not always about being employed for someone else, but sometimes young people can learn how to be employed by themselves. So one of them had a catering business. This was Jacob, called American Bites, because it's from America, right? Very exciting, very original within the UK. That was hugely successful because we don't really have that many of them in our borough. And then the second one did T-shirt printing. Again, very successful, very popular. And it's kind of education is the key. It's about giving people power, because knowledge is power, education is powerful. And to teach young people how to not only rely on other people for a job, but to actually be able to look to themselves and provide something, that's absolutely amazing. So for me, I believe that let's educate young people to be their own employers as well as be employed for someone else. Thank you.